How did a band from the rainy city of Seattle transform the entire music industry? That's a question we're diving into today. Picture this. The year is 1987 and the music scene is dominated by glossy pop and hair metal. But tucked away in the Pacific Northwest, a city known more for its coffee than its music, a band is formed that would forever change the face of rock. That band was Nirvana. This trio, comprised of Kurt Cobain, Chris Novoselic, and eventually Dave Grohl, didn't set out to be rock legends. Initially, they were just another band in Seattle's vibrant grunge scene, where flannel shirts and gritty guitar riffs were the order of the day. Nirvana was a band formed from the ashes of the punk rock scene, and their music reflected the raw, unfiltered emotion of that genre. Their journey was not without its struggles. Despite their undeniable talent, the band faced numerous setbacks in their early years, from lineup changes to a lack of commercial success. But they persevered, driven by a shared vision and a love of music. In 1989, Nirvana released their debut album, Bleach. It was a raw, unpolished gem that captured the essence of the grunge scene. Despite its modest budget and minimal promotion, Bleach managed to make waves in the underground music scene. It was a sign of things to come, a hint at the potential greatness of this band from Seattle. But it was their sophomore album, Nevermind, that truly marked their entry into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This record, with its iconic cover and unforgettable tracks, catapulted Nirvana from the underground grunge scene into the international spotlight. It was a game changer, not just for the band, but for the entire music industry. And so, the story of Nirvana begins, a band that emerged from the rainy streets of Seattle only to change the face of music forever. A band that, despite their struggles and setbacks, managed to leave an indelible mark on the world of rock and roll. A band that in many ways is still as relevant today as they were over 3 decades ago. But it was their sophomore album, Nevermind, that truly marked their entry into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When Nevermind hit the shelves in 1991, the music world wasn't ready for what was to come. This was an album that not only changed the trajectory of Nirvana's career, but also the entire landscape of rock music. The album was a sonic boom in the music industry. The raw energy, the angst, the sheer volume of it all. It was something the world had never heard before. And at the center of this whirlwind was the iconic single, Smells Like Teen Spirit. With its unforgettable riff and anthemic chorus, it became an anthem for a generation of disaffected youth. It was a song that encapsulated the spirit of the era, a spirit of rebellion, of questioning, of refusing to accept the status quo. In many ways, Nevermind was the album that brought grunge and alternative rock into the mainstream. Before Nirvana, these genres were largely confined to the underground music scene. But Nevermind changed that. It brought a sense of rawness and authenticity to the music scene that had been lacking in the glossy pop and glam rock of the 80s. The success of Nevermind was monumental. It sold over 10 million copies in the United States alone and topped the charts in countries around the world. But perhaps more importantly, it had a profound cultural impact. Nirvana's music resonated with millions of people. It gave voice to their frustrations, their fears, their hopes. It was a form of catharsis, a way to express feelings that were often difficult to put into words. The fame that followed the release of Nevermind was intense. Nirvana went from being a relatively unknown band from Seattle to one of the biggest acts in the world. Their music was everywhere, their faces plastered on magazines and television screens. It was a level of fame that was both exhilarating and overwhelming. By the end of 1991, Nirvana was no longer just a band. It had become a cultural phenomenon. The Nevermind phenomenon had begun, and it would forever change the face of music. But with fame came a host of problems that the band, especially frontman Kurt Cobain, were not equipped to handle. It was a whirlwind, a storm of flashing lights, adoring fans, and ceaseless praise that quickly turned into a maelstrom of chaos. The band, who had once been the underdogs, the grunge misfits from the rainy city of Seattle, found themselves thrust into the limelight, a place they weren't quite prepared for. The fame was sudden and it was intense. It brought with it a host of problems. Cobain, the reluctant rock star, struggled with the pressures of fame. He was uncomfortable with the media attention, the constant scrutiny, and the expectations that came with being the voice of a generation. This discomfort was exacerbated by his ongoing struggles with substance abuse, a battle he fought in the public eye. Meanwhile, internal conflicts within the band began to surface. Creative differences, personality clashes, the tension was palpable. It was a time of turmoil, and it reflected in their music. Their third album, In Utero, was a raw, unfiltered expression of their struggles. It was darker, heavier, a stark contrast to their previous work. The album was a mirror that reflected the band's internal chaos, a sonic embodiment of their downward spiral. Yet it's important to remember that even in their struggles, Nirvana never lost sight of their music. They continued to create, to innovate, and to push boundaries. Their struggles did not define them, but rather, it fueled their creativity. They channeled their pain and their struggles into their music, creating songs that resonated with a generation. Songs that spoke of disillusionment and angst. Songs that became anthems for the disaffected youth. Despite the internal conflicts and struggles, Nirvana continued to make music that resonated with a generation. They turned their downward spiral into a creative force, a testament to their resilience and their commitment to their art. And in doing so, they forever changed the landscape of music. The tragic end of Kurt Cobain in 1994 marked the end of Nirvana, but not the end of their influence. This is where the legacy of Nirvana truly begins, a legacy that has continued to shape and inspire the music industry for over 3 decades. Following their abrupt end, Nirvana's influence didn't wane. Instead, it grew stronger. Their raw sound, unfiltered lyrics, and rebellious spirit resonated with a generation of musicians who found in Nirvana a mirror reflecting their own angst and desire for authenticity. Bands like Radiohead, The Smashing Pumpkins, and Pearl Jam have all cited Nirvana as a major influence in their music. Nirvana's music wasn't just about the sound, it was about the message. They gave voice to the disillusioned youth of the 90s, speaking to their fears, frustrations, and aspirations. They embraced the outcasts and the misunderstood, creating a safe space for those who felt alienated and displaced. This ethos of inclusivity and authenticity has continued to influence music to this day, with artists across genres striving to create honest, raw music that speaks to their audience's experiences. Not only did Nirvana shape the music of the 90s, but they also left a lasting impact on the music industry as a whole. They challenged the status quo, proving that alternative rock could achieve mainstream success. In doing so, they paved the way for a whole new genre of music, grunge, which continues to inspire artists and musicians today. In recognition of their monumental influence, Nirvana was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2014, 20 years after Cobain's death. This honor solidified their status as one of the most important and influential bands in rock history.